Sarah Martinez adjusted her white silk nightgown one final time before stepping into the honeymoon suite. The wedding had been perfect. 300 guests, cascading flowers, and a ceremony that made even the toughest relatives tear up. She and David had dated for 4 years, living together for 2, and everyone said they were the perfect match. Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of their forever. The hotel room overlooked the Pacific Ocean, with moonlight streaming through. Floor-to-ceiling windows, rose petals scattered across Egyptian cotton sheets, champagne chilling in an ice bucket, and soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. Everything exactly as she had dreamed since she was a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's wedding veil. David sat on the edge of the bed, still in his dress shirt and pants, but something felt different. His shoulders were tense, and he kept checking his phone every few seconds. During the reception, she had noticed him stepping outside for calls multiple times, always returning with a forced smile and an excuse about work emergencies. "You've been quiet since we got here," Sarah said, settling beside him on the bed. "Are you okay? I know today was overwhelming, but we made it through." David looked at his phone again, then set it face down on the nightstand. His hands were shaking slightly, and Sarah noticed a thin layer of sweat on his forehead despite the cool ocean breeze flowing through the partially open balcony door. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Those 5 words sent ice through her veins. Nobody ever said "we need to talk" before sharing good news. She had heard those exact words from her college boyfriend before he broke up with her, from her boss before she got laid off, and from her doctor before delivering test results that changed everything. "Talk about what?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "David, you're scaring me." He stood up and walked to the window, putting distance between them. In the reflection, she could see his face contorted with what looked like guilt and pain. Her heart began racing, and she felt like she might throw up the expensive wedding cake she had eaten just hours earlier. "There's something I should have told you before today," David said, still facing the window. "Something that happened 3 months ago when I went to that conference in Chicago." Sarah's mind immediately went to the worst possible scenario. An affair. It had to be an affair. She remembered that conference, how he had been gone for 5 days, how he seemed different when he came back, more distant and secretive. She had asked him about it, but he brushed off her concerns, saying he was just stressed about work. "What happened in Chicago, David?" she asked, her voice stronger now, prepared for the truth she somehow already knew. He turned around, and she could see tears in his eyes. In 4 years together, she had only seen him cry twice. Once when his grandfather died, and once during a particularly emotional movie. This was different, though. This was the kind of crying that came from deep shame and regret. "I met someone at the hotel bar," he began, his voice cracking. "I was lonely, stressed about the wedding planning, about us moving in together officially, about everything changing so fast. I know that's not an excuse, but I was scared." Sarah felt like the room was spinning. The beautiful suite, the rose petals, the champagne. Everything suddenly felt like a cruel joke. She gripped the bedsheets to steady herself, her knuckles turning white. "You cheated on me," she said. Not really a question, but a statement of, David nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "It was one night I never saw her again. I tried to forget about it, to pretend it never happened. But I can't start our marriage with this lie between us." The irony was devastating. He was telling her on their wedding night, hours after they had promised to love and honor each other, after she had worn his ring and taken his name. All day while she was glowing with happiness, posing for pictures, dancing with relatives, and feeling like the luckiest woman alive, he was carrying this secret. 3 months, Sarah whispered. 3 months you've known this, and you chose today to tell me. "I tried to tell you before," David said, finally looking at her. "I started to tell you last week, but you were so excited about the wedding, about everything. I convinced myself it would be better to wait until after, when we could deal with it privately." Sarah stood up, pacing to the opposite side of the room. Her beautiful wedding dress hung in the closet, the veil carefully arranged on a hanger. Just 12 hours ago she had put on that dress feeling like a princess. Now she felt like a fool. "Who was she?" Sarah asked, surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Inside, she was screaming, but somehow her voice remained steady and controlled. David hesitated, and Sarah realized there was more to this story than a simple one-night stand. The way he was avoiding her eyes, the way his hands were still shaking, the way he kept looking at his phone, there was something else. "Her name is Jennifer," he said quietly. "She's a marketing executive from Denver. We talked for hours before anything happened. She was going through a divorce, feeling lonely, and we just connected in a way that felt easy and natural." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. It wasn't just sex. He had connected with this woman, talked to her, formed some kind of emotional bond. In some ways, that felt worse than if it had been just a meaningless physical encounter. "Are you still in contact with her?" Sarah asked, already knowing the answer from the way he was avoiding her gaze. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of waves crashing against the shore below. Sarah realized that her perfect wedding day, the day she had planned and dreamed about for years, was ending in the worst possible way. And somehow she knew this was only the beginning of consequences she couldn't yet imagine. The silence in the honeymoon suite became unbearable. David's phone buzzed against the nightstand, and Sarah watched his eyes dart toward it instinctively. That small movement told her everything she needed to know. "Answer it," she said, her voice like steel. "I know it's her." David's face went pale. "Sarah, please. Let me explain everything first." But Sarah was already reaching for the phone. David lunged forward to stop her, but she was faster. The text message on the screen made her stomach drop. "I know today is your wedding day, but I can't stop thinking about what we discussed. I'm ready to take the next step if you are. Call me when you can. Jennifer." Sarah stared at the message, reading it 3 times before the full impact hit her. This wasn't a confession about a 3-month-old mistake. This was an ongoing relationship. This was David actively planning something with another woman on their wedding day. "What next step?" Sarah asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "What exactly have you two been discussing?" David slumped into the armchair by the window, looking like a man facing execution. His carefully styled wedding hair was now messy from running. His hands through it, and his white dress shirt was wrinkled and stained with sweat. "She's getting divorced," he said. "The papers were finalized last week. She asked me to move to Denver with her." The room started spinning again. Sarah sat down hard on the bed, clutching the phone so tightly her knuckles ached. On their wedding day, while she was saying vows and promising forever, David's mistress was asking him to run away with her. "And what did you tell her?" Sarah managed to ask. "I told her I needed to think about it," David admitted. "I said I needed to get through today first, and then we could make plans." Sarah felt like she was living in a nightmare. The man she had just married, the man she had loved for 4 years, had been planning to leave her while she walked down the aisle. Every smile during the ceremony, every dance at the reception, every kiss and laugh had been a lie. So what was the plan exactly? Sarah stood up, pacing again. The expensive silk nightgown suddenly felt ridiculous, like a costume for a play she never auditioned for. "Were you going to go through with the honeymoon? Come home and pretend to be a husband while you figured out how to escape?" David was crying openly now, but Sarah felt no sympathy for him. 4 hours ago, her biggest worry was whether the photographer had captured all the important moments. Now she was wondering if her marriage was over before it had even really begun. "I don't know," David said. "I was hoping that today, being here with you, would help me remember why we're good together. I was hoping I could forget about Jennifer and be the husband you deserve." "The husband I deserve?" Sarah's voice rose for the first time. "The husband I deserve wouldn't have cheated in the first place. The husband I deserve wouldn't have lied for 3 months. And the husband I deserve certainly wouldn't have planned his escape route while I was picking out flowers and cake flavors." She walked to the closet and started pulling out clothes from her suitcase. The honeymoon wardrobe she had carefully selected, sundresses for beach walks, lingerie for romantic evenings, comfortable clothes for sightseeing, now seemed like props for a movie that had been canceled. "What are you doing?" David asked, panic clear in his voice. "I'm leaving," Sarah said, pulling on jeans and a sweater. "This honeymoon is over. This marriage is over." "Sarah, please." David stood up and moved toward her. "Don't make any permanent decisions tonight. You're in shock. We both are. Let's sleep on it and talk in the morning." Sarah turned to face him, and David stepped back at the look in her eyes. She had never felt such clarity and such fury at the same time. Every emotion from the past 4 years, love, trust, hope, dreams for the future, was crystallizing into something hard and unforgiving. "Sleep on it," she repeated. "David, you've been sleeping on this for 3 months while I planned our wedding. While I sent out invitations and picked out china patterns and chose a dress that I'll never be able to look at again without thinking about this moment." She zipped up her suitcase with more force than necessary. The sound echoed in the quiet room like a gunshot. David flinched. "Where will you go?" he asked quietly. "That's not your problem anymore," Sarah said, slinging her purse over her shoulder. "You have Jennifer to worry about now. Congratulations, David, you got what you wanted." But as Sarah reached the door, David's phone buzzed again. Another message from Jennifer. Sarah glanced at it and felt her blood turn to ice. "I saw the wedding. Photos on social media. She looks beautiful. Are you sure you're making the right choice? I can give you a life without all the pressure and expectations, just the two of us starting fresh." Sarah looked up at David, who was reading over her shoulder. The expression on his face told her that he had been considering Jennifer's offer seriously. This wasn't just about one night of weakness. This was about David genuinely questioning whether he wanted to be married to Sarah at all. "She's been watching our wedding photos," Sarah said, her voice hollow. "She's been following along with our special day, waiting for you to choose her." David opened his mouth to say something, but Sarah held up her hand to stop him. "How long has she been doing this?" Sarah asked. "How long has she been part of our relationship without me knowing it?" "Since the conference," David admitted. "We've been texting almost every day. She helped me through a lot of the stress about the wedding. She listened when I had doubts." Sarah felt like she had been slapped. While she was excited about their future, David was sharing his doubts with another woman. While she was making plans for their life together, David was getting emotional support from his mistress. "Get out," Sarah said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this room. Go call Jennifer. Go be with someone who makes you happy instead of someone who apparently causes you stress just by loving you." David looked around the honeymoon suite, at the rose petals, the champagne, the carefully arranged romantic setting that now felt like a crime scene. "Sarah, this is our room, our honeymoon." "There is no R anymore," Sarah said, opening the door. "There hasn't been for 3 months. I'm just the last one to find out." As David gathered his things, Sarah stood by the window looking out at the ocean. In a few hours, the sun would rise on what should have been the first day of her married life. Instead, it would be the first day of whatever came next. And for the first time since entering this room, Sarah realized she had no idea what that would look like. Sarah sat in her rental car in the hotel parking lot at 3 in the morning, staring at her phone. She had nowhere to go. Their apartment, now just her apartment, was 2 hours away, but she couldn't face driving there alone in the dark. She couldn't face sleeping in the bed she shared with David, surrounded by wedding gifts and reminders of the life they had planned together. Her wedding ring caught the light from the parking lot lamp. The diamond that had made her so happy 6 months ago when David proposed now felt heavy and foreign on her finger. She twisted it off and dropped it in the cup holder, then immediately picked it up again. She wasn't ready for that step yet. Wasn't ready to make it real. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from her sister Maria, 12 from her mother, and dozens of text messages from friends and family. Word was already spreading. In the age of social media, secrets didn't stay secret for long. Someone had probably seen David leaving the hotel alone, or maybe overheard them arguing, or noticed Sarah's car still in the parking lot hours after the honeymoon was supposed to begin. She couldn't face calling anyone back. How do you explain that your perfect wedding day ended with discovering your husband had been planning to leave you for another woman? How do you tell people who spent money on flights and hotels and gifts that it was all for nothing? Sarah started the car and drove aimlessly through the empty coastal town. All-night diners, gas stations, and the occasional drunk stumbling out of a bar were the only signs of life. She found herself pulling into a 24-hour diner, the kind with red vinyl booths and coffee that had been sitting too long on. The burner. The waitress, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and tired feet, brought Sarah coffee without being asked. Rough night, honey? Sarah looked down at herself. She was still wearing her jeans and sweater, but her hair was still styled from the wedding and her makeup was smeared from crying. She probably looked exactly like what she was, a woman whose world had just fallen apart. You could say that, Sarah managed. Wedding ring tan line, the waitress observed, noticing Sarah's bare finger. I've seen it before. You want to talk about it? Something about this stranger's kindness broke through Sarah's shock. The whole story came pouring out. The perfect wedding, the honeymoon suite, David's confession, the text messages from Jennifer, the realization that her marriage was over before it had even begun. The waitress, whose name tag read Betty, listened, without judgment, refilling Sarah's coffee and sliding a piece of apple pie across the table. 28 years I worked this shift, Betty said when Sarah finished. I've seen every kind of heartbreak walk through that door. You know what I've learned? The ones who survive are the ones who get mad instead of staying sad. I am mad, Sarah said. I'm furious. Good, Betty nodded. Because that man didn't just cheat on you. He stole 3 months of your life where you could have been making different choices. He let you plan a wedding, invite your family and friends, spend money you probably couldn't afford, all while he was planning his exit strategy. Sarah hadn't thought about it that way, but Betty was right. While Sarah was tasting cakes and addressing invitations, David was texting another woman. While Sarah was excited about their future, David was questioning whether he wanted that future at all. What would you do? Sarah asked. Betty smiled grimly. Honey, I'd make sure he faced some consequences for those choices. But that's just me. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from David. I'm at the hotel bar. Can we please talk? I know I messed up, but I love you. We can work through this. She showed the message to Betty, who shook her head. 3 hours ago, he was ready to run off with Jennifer. Now he loves you and wants to work it out? That's not love, honey. That's panic. Sarah typed back. There's nothing to work out. You made your choice when you started talking to Jennifer. I'm making mine now. Her phone immediately started ringing. David's name and picture filled the screen. A photo from last Christmas where they both looked so happy and in love. Sarah declined the call and then blocked his number. Decisive, Betty approved. That's good. Now what about Jennifer? Sarah had been trying not to think about the other woman. In her mind, Jennifer was this perfect, understanding person who gave David everything Sarah apparently couldn't. But sitting in the diner with Betty's frank wisdom, Sarah started to see things differently. She knew he was getting married, Sarah said slowly. She saw our wedding photos on social media. She was actively trying to break up our marriage. Betty nodded. And what kind of woman does that? Sarah pulled out her phone, and before she could second-guess herself, found Jennifer's company website. Marketing executive at a major firm in Denver. Professional headshots, client testimonials, awards, and recognition. Jennifer looked polished and successful, and like someone who was used to getting what she wanted. She has no idea who she's dealing with, Sarah said, surprised by the steel in her own voice. Betty grinned. Now you're talking. What are you thinking? Sarah wasn't sure yet, but she was thinking something. For the first time since David's confession, she felt like she had some power in this situation. Jennifer and David thought they could plan Sarah's future without her input. They thought they could make decisions about her life while keeping her in the dark. They were about to learn differently. First, I need to go home and figure out the practical stuff, Sarah said. Canceling the honeymoon, dealing with wedding gifts, probably finding a lawyer. Then I need to decide what to do about Jennifer. Just remember, Betty said as Sarah left money on the table, you've got nothing to be ashamed of. You didn't break any promises. You didn't lie to anyone. You don't have to protect anyone's feelings or make this easier for them. Sarah hugged the older woman impulsively. Thank you. I needed to hear that. What's your name, honey? Betty asked. Sarah Martinez. She paused. Well, it was going to be Sarah Coleman as of today. I guess it's staying Martinez. Sarah Martinez, Betty repeated. Remember that name. Don't let them make you forget who you are. Driving home as the sun started to rise, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected. Relief. The wedding she had stressed over for months was done. The marriage that had been built on lies was over. The future she had planned was gone. But that meant she could plan a different one. And for the first time in 3 months, while David had been living with his secret, Sarah was finally living with the truth. She was free to make choices based on reality instead of lies. She was free to decide what came next. The highway stretched ahead of her, and Sarah realized that for the first time in a long time, she had no idea where she was going. But somehow, that felt like a good thing. Sarah walked into her apartment at 7 in the morning to find her sister Maria waiting on the couch, surrounded by coffee cups and tissues. Maria jumped up the moment she saw Sarah, relief and worry battling across her face. Thank God, Maria said, pulling Sarah into a fierce hug. I've been calling you for hours. Mom's been having panic attacks thinking something terrible happened to you. What's going on? David called me at 4 a.m. crying and babbling about making a mistake, but he wouldn't tell me what happened. Sarah looked around their apartment. Her apartment now. Wedding gifts were still stacked on the dining room table waiting to be opened. The wedding dress preservation box sat by the door ready for pickup. Pictures from their engagement session smiled down from the mantel. Everything looked normal, but nothing would ever be normal again. David cheated on me, Sarah said simply. He's been having an affair for 3 months. He told me on our wedding night. Maria's face went through several emotions at once. Shock, anger, disbelief, and then a murderous rage that Sarah had never seen on her younger sister's face. He did what? Maria's voice was dangerously quiet. On your wedding night, after everything you went through to make that day perfect? Sarah told Maria everything while they drank coffee and ate leftover wedding cake that tasted like cardboard. Now. She showed her the text messages from Jennifer, explained about David's plans to move to Denver, described the scene in the honeymoon suite that had shattered her entire world. I'm going to kill him, Maria said when Sarah finished. I'm literally going to drive to that hotel and murder him with my bare hands. Get in line, Sarah said. But first I need your help with something else. Maria raised an eyebrow. What do you need? Sarah pulled out her laptop and opened Jennifer's company website again. I need you to help me understand exactly who I'm dealing with. For the next 2 hours, they researched Jennifer like they were preparing for a court case. Social media profiles, professional background, news articles mentioning her work, even property records. The picture that emerged was of a successful, ambitious woman who was used to winning. Look at this, Maria said, pointing to Jennifer's Instagram. She posted a picture of a Denver sunset yesterday with the caption, "New beginnings require brave choices." Yesterday, Sarah, on your wedding day. Sarah stared at the post. While Sarah was dancing with her father and cutting cake and feeling like the luckiest woman in the world, Jennifer was posting cryptic messages about brave choices and new beginnings. She was confident David would choose her, Sarah realized. She knew he was wavering and she was already celebrating. What are you thinking? Maria asked, recognizing the look on her sister's face. I'm thinking Jennifer believes she won, Sarah said slowly. She thinks she's the better woman who stole the groom from the boring fiancé. She probably thinks I'm at home crying into ice cream while she plans her future with David. Aren't you? Sarah considered this. Yesterday, she probably would have been. Yesterday she would have blamed herself, wondered what she had done wrong, tried to figure out how to win David back. But something had changed during her conversation with Betty at the diner. No, Sarah said. I'm not. I'm angry, and I think Jennifer and David both need to understand that actions have consequences. Sarah's phone rang. Their home number was calling her cell, which meant David was probably at the apartment trying to reach her. Don't answer it, Maria advised, to make him sweat. But Sarah had a better idea. She answered the phone and put it on speaker. Sarah, thank God. David's voice filled the room. I've been worried sick. Where are you? I went to the apartment, but you weren't there. I'm handling some business, Sarah said calmly. What do you want, David? I want to talk. I want to explain. I made a terrible mistake, but we can work through this. I love you, Sarah. I chose you. I married you. Maria made gagging motions from across the room. You chose me? Sarah repeated. David, you were planning to leave me for Jennifer. The only reason you're calling is because I found out before you could execute your plan. That's not true, David protested, but his voice lacked conviction. I was confused, but I never would have actually left you. The text messages say otherwise, Sarah said. Jennifer seems pretty confident that you two have a future together. There was a long pause. Sarah could almost hear David's brain working, trying to figure out what she knew and what she might do with the information. Have you told anyone about this? David asked, and Sarah caught the worry in his voice. Why? Sarah asked. Are you concerned about your reputation? I'm concerned about us, David said. If we're going to work through this, we need privacy. We don't need everyone judging us or taking sides. Sarah looked at Maria, who was shaking her head vigorously. David, Sarah said, there is no us anymore. There hasn't been for 3 months, apparently. You made sure of that when you started your relationship with Jennifer. It's not a relationship, David insisted. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness that got out of hand. I can end it right now. I can call her and tell her it's over. Don't bother, Sarah said. You two deserve each other. She hung up before David could respond. Almost immediately, her phone started buzzing with text messages. Please don't make any permanent decisions while you're upset. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. I'm coming over. We need to talk face to face. Sarah turned off her phone and looked at Maria. He's scared, Maria observed. He knows he messed up and now he's trying to control the damage. Too late for that, Sarah said. She opened her laptop again and pulled up Facebook. What are you doing? Maria asked. David's worried about his reputation, Sarah said. He wants privacy while we work through this. But there's nothing to work through. And I don't see why I should protect his reputation when he didn't protect our marriage. Sarah began typing a Facebook post. Thank you to everyone who made yesterday's wedding so beautiful. Unfortunately, David and I will not be taking our planned honeymoon as we have decided to end our marriage. I appreciate your understanding during this difficult time. That's pretty diplomatic, Maria said, reading over her shoulder. I'm just getting started, Sarah replied. She tagged David in the post and hit publish. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. Shocked friends and family members, people offering support, people demanding details. Sarah's phone started ringing immediately. Her mother, David's mother, friends from the wedding. Sarah Martinez, Maria said admiringly. You are not playing games. No, Sarah agreed. I'm not. And neither is Jennifer, apparently. She showed Maria a new message that had appeared on Jennifer's Instagram, posted just 20 minutes ago. Sometimes the best things come to those who are brave enough to go after what they want. Exciting changes ahead. She's really not subtle, is she? Maria said. Nope, Sarah replied. And I don't think she realizes that I can see her posts. She still thinks I'm the clueless wife who doesn't know what's happening. Sarah screenshotted Jennifer's post, along with several others that seemed to reference her situation with David. Then she opened her laptop again. What are you doing now? Maria asked. Research, Sarah said. If Jennifer wants to play games, I want to make sure I know all the rules first. By noon, Sarah's Facebook post had over 200 comments and had been shared dozens of times. Her phone was constantly buzzing with calls and messages from friends, family, and acquaintances who had heard the news. David's mother called in tears, begging Sarah to give him another chance. David's best friend called to apologize and admit he had suspected something was wrong but hadn't wanted to interfere. But it was the call from her cousin Lisa, a family law attorney, that changed everything. Sarah, I saw your post. Lisa said. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Are you okay? I'm getting there, Sarah said. Actually, Lisa, I might need your professional help. Of course. Do you want to file for divorce? Given that you were just married yesterday, we might be able to get an annulment instead, which would be faster and cleaner. Sarah hadn't even thought about the legal aspects yet. What's the difference? An annulment basically says the marriage never legally existed, Lisa explained. Given that David was already in a relationship with someone else and was planning to leave, we might be able to argue that he entered the marriage under false pretenses. It would save you time, money, and hassle. As they talked through the legal options, Sarah felt a sense of control returning. For months she had felt like her life was happening to her, wedding planning, David's moods, even his betrayal. But now she was making active choices about her future. There's something else, Sarah said. David's been texting me all morning, trying to get me to keep this quiet. He's worried about his reputation, his job, his family finding out. Is there anything legally that would prevent me from talking about what happened? Lisa was quiet for a moment. Not really. As long as you're telling the truth, you have the right to talk about your own experiences. Why do you ask? Sarah told Lisa about Jennifer, about the Instagram posts, about how the other woman seemed to be celebrating her victory while David was trying to manage the public relations disaster. It sounds like neither of them expected you to fight back, Lisa observed. They thought you'd quietly go away and let them have their happy ending. That's exactly what they thought, Sarah agreed. And I think it's time to prove them wrong. After hanging up with Lisa, Sarah sat down with Maria to plan her next move. David had texted 17 more times, each message becoming more desperate and demanding. He was coming over whether she wanted him to or not. He needed his clothes and his things. They needed to talk like adults. He's spiraling, Maria observed. His perfect plan is falling apart. Good, Sarah said. Let him spiral, but I want to be prepared when he gets here. Sarah spent the afternoon documenting everything. She printed out screenshots of Jennifer's social media posts, saved copies of David's text messages admitting to the affair, and wrote down everything she could. Remember about his confession from the night before. If David wanted to play damage control, she wanted to have her facts straight. She also called the hotel and canceled the remaining 6 days of their honeymoon. The manager, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, offered a partial refund and expressed sympathy for her circumstances. Word was spreading even beyond their immediate circle. At 4 o'clock, David's car pulled into the parking lot. Sarah watched from the window as he sat in his car for several minutes, probably steeling himself for the confrontation. When he finally came to the door, he looked terrible. Rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes, and the desperate look of a man whose world was falling apart. "Thank you for seeing me," he said, when Sarah opened the door. He glanced at Maria, who was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed and a murderous expression. "Could we talk privately?" "Maria stays," Sarah said. "I want a witness for whatever you're about to say." David looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. He sat down across from them, and Sarah noticed he was still wearing his wedding ring. She wondered if that was calculated, or if he genuinely hadn't thought to take it off. "Sarah, I know you're hurt and angry, but posting about our private business on Facebook was unnecessary," David began. "Our families are upset. My coworkers are asking questions, and you're making this harder than it needs to be." Sarah stared at him. "I'm making this harder than it needs to be?" "We could have handled this quietly," David continued. "Work things out in private, or if we decided to separate, done it with dignity instead of airing our dirty laundry on social media." Maria snorted. "David, you cheated on my sister for 3 months and told her about it on your wedding night. There is no dignity in this situation." David ignored Maria and focused on Sarah. "I made a mistake, a terrible, huge mistake. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. We can get through this." "What about Jennifer?" Sarah asked. David shifted uncomfortably. "I've already told her it's over. I explained that I'm committed to my marriage and that we can't have any more contact." "When did you tell her this?" Sarah asked. This morning, after I realized how badly I had messed up. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed David Jennifer's Instagram post from an hour ago. Some people make promises they have no intention of keeping, but the universe has a way of working things out. Everything happens for a reason. Trust the process. New beginnings. David's face went white as he read the post. Sarah could see him calculating, trying to figure out what Jennifer meant and what Sarah might know. She doesn't sound like someone who was just told it's over, Sarah observed. She sounds like someone who's confident about her future. I don't know why she posted that, David said weakly. Maybe she's just processing the rejection badly. Sarah pulled up another post, this one from 2 hours earlier. Coffee tastes better when you're excited about tomorrow. Big decisions require courage, but the payoff is worth it. David, Sarah said calmly, stop lying to me. You didn't break up with Jennifer this morning. You probably haven't even talked to her today because you've been too busy trying to manage the fallout with me. David's shoulders slumped in defeat. Okay, you're right, I haven't called her yet, but I will. I just wanted to talk to you first to see if we could work things out. So your plan was to see if you could convince me to take you back, and if not, then you'd go to Jennifer? Maria's voice was incredulous. You're literally keeping both options open until the last possible moment. It's not like that, David protested, but his voice lacked conviction. It's exactly like that, Sarah said. You're still trying to have it both ways. You want me to keep this quiet so your reputation doesn't get damaged while you decide which woman you actually want to be with. Sarah stood up and walked to the dining room table where the wedding gifts were still stacked. She picked up a crystal vase from David's aunt, still in its box with the receipt attached. Do you know what I've been doing today while you were deciding whether to choose me or Jennifer? Sarah asked. I've been returning wedding gifts. Do you know how humiliating it is to walk into a store with a receipt for a gift someone bought for your wedding and ask for a refund because your marriage lasted less than 24 hours? David flinched. Sarah, please. We don't have to return anything. We can still make this work. No, we can't, Sarah said firmly. Because even if you choose me, even if you never speak to Jennifer again, I'll always know that I was your second choice. I'll always know that you only came back to me because your plan to leave me fell apart. She walked to the kitchen and came back with a box she had packed earlier. David's things, clothes, books, toiletries, the coffee mug his mother had given him last Christmas. She set it down in front of him. These are your things, Sarah said. I want you out of the apartment by tomorrow. Lisa is filing for an annulment on Monday morning. An annulment? David looked panicked. Sarah, that's extreme. We can get counseling. We can work through this. David, you've been in a relationship with another woman for 3 months, Sarah said. You plan to leave me for her. The only reason you're here right now is because I found out before you could execute your exit strategy. There's nothing to work through. David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it reflexively and Sarah saw him tense up. Let me guess, Sarah said. Jennifer? David nodded miserably. She's asking why I haven't called her back. She says she's been watching the news about our wedding announcement being retracted and wants to know what's happening. She's been watching the news? Maria repeated. She's following your marriage breakdown like it's entertainment? Answer her, Sarah said. Tell her you're available. Tell her you're ready to move to Denver. Tell her whatever you want. Just don't lie to her the way you lied to me. David looked up at Sarah with something like desperation. What if I choose you? What if I tell Jennifer it's completely over and I commit 100% to our marriage? Would you consider staying? Sarah looked at this man she had loved for 4 years, the man she had planned to spend her life with. 12 hours ago, she would have done anything to hear him say those words. Now they just made her tired. David, she said gently, the fact that you're still talking about choosing between us tells me everything I need to know. A husband doesn't have to choose his wife. He just is married to her. The choice was made when you said, I do yesterday. But I did say I do. David protested. I married you, I chose you. No, Sarah said. You went through with a wedding because you were too scared to face the consequences of calling it off. There's a difference. Sarah's phone rang. It was her mother, probably calling for the 10th time today to check on her. Sarah declined the call, but it reminded her of something. David, I need you to call your family and explain what happened, Sarah said. Your mother has been calling me all day, crying and begging me to give you another chance. She deserves to know the truth. What am I supposed to tell them? David asked. The same thing you told me, Sarah said, that you've been having an affair, that you were planning to leave and that our marriage is over. Let them hear it from you instead of through gossip. David picked up the box of his belongings, and Sarah could see him struggling with the finality of it all. Sarah, I really do love you. I know I messed up, but what we had was real. Maybe it was real for you, Sarah said. But it wasn't honest. And I can't build a life with someone who keeps escape routes hidden in his back pocket. After David left, Sarah and Maria sat in the quiet apartment. The wedding gifts were half packed for return. David's empty spaces were visible throughout. The rooms and Sarah's wedding dress still hung in the closet like a ghost. How are you feeling? Maria asked. Sarah considered the question. Free, she said finally. Sad and angry and hurt, but also free. For the first time in months, I know exactly where I stand. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi, Sarah. This is Jennifer. I think we should talk. Sarah stared at the text message from Jennifer, reading it 3 times before showing it to Maria. She has your number? Maria asked incredulously. How did she get your number? David probably gave it to her, Sarah realized. Or she looked me up online. It's not hard to find someone these days. What do you think she wants? Maria asked. Sarah had a pretty good idea, but she wanted to be sure. She texted back, What do you want to talk about? The response came immediately. I think there are some things you should know about David. Things he probably didn't tell you. Can we meet for coffee? I'm driving down from Denver tonight. Maria's jaw dropped. She's driving here? From Denver? That's like a 6-hour drive. She's really committed to this, Sarah said. Something about Jennifer's message bothered her. The tone was different from her social media posts. Less confident, more urgent. She says there are things I should know about David. It's probably a trap, Maria warned. She probably wants to gloat or try to convince you that David never loved you. But Sarah was curious. Jennifer had been confident all day, posting cryptic messages about new beginnings and brave choices. Why the sudden change in tone? Why the urgency to meet in person? Sarah texted back, What kind of things? The kind that are better discussed in person. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I think we're both being played here. Maria read over Sarah's shoulder. Being played? What does that mean? Sarah's phone rang. David's number, which she had unblocked to receive his texts earlier. She answered on speaker. Sarah, I need to warn you about something, David said without preamble. Jennifer is angry that I chose you, and she might try to contact you to cause trouble. Don't believe anything she tells you. Too late, Sarah said. She already contacted me. She wants to meet. Don't do it, David said urgently. She's vindictive and manipulative. She might try to hurt you to get back at me. Get back? At you for what? Sarah asked. I thought you said you hadn't talked to her today. There was a pause. I called her after I left your apartment. I told her it was completely over between us and that I was fighting for my marriage. And how did she take that news? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew. Not well, David admitted. She said some things, made some threats. She's not the person I thought she was, Sarah. I made a terrible mistake getting involved with her. Sarah looked at Maria, who was making I told you so faces. What kind of threats? Sarah asked. She said she'd make sure everyone knew what really happened between us. She said she had evidence that would destroy my reputation and my career. She's completely lost it. Evidence of what? Sarah pressed. David was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, there are some things about my relationship with Jennifer that I didn't tell you last night. Things that make the situation more complicated. Sarah felt her stomach drop. What things, David? Can we talk in person? This isn't something I want to discuss over the phone. No, Sarah said firmly. You've had your chance to talk in person. You've had multiple chances to tell me the truth. Tell me now, or don't tell me at all. She could hear David taking a deep breath. The affair started before the Chicago conference. Jennifer and I have been involved for almost 6 months, not 3. And it's not just emotional. I've been financially, supporting her divorce, helping with her legal fees and living expenses. Sarah felt like she'd been slapped. 6 months. That meant the affair had started right around the time they had sent out their engagement announcements. While friends and family were congratulating them and planning to attend their wedding, David was starting a relationship with another woman. How? Much money? Sarah asked, her voice deadly calm. About $15,000 so far, David admitted. I used our joint savings account and some credit cards. Maria grabbed Sarah's arm to steady her. Their joint savings account was money they had been saving for the honeymoon, for a down payment on a house for their future together. David had been giving it to his mistress. You stole from me, Sarah said. You stole money that I earned and saved to give to your girlfriend. I was going to pay it back, David protested. I never meant for it to go this far. Is there anything else? Sarah asked. Any other lies you want to clear up while we're at it? Jennifer is pregnant, David said quietly. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She couldn't breathe for a moment, couldn't think, couldn't process what she was hearing. She's what? Sarah whispered. She's about 2 months pregnant. She told me last week, right before the wedding. That's part of why I was so stressed and conflicted I didn't know what to do. Sarah hung up the phone and ran to the bathroom, where she threw up what little food she had managed to eat that day. Maria followed her, holding her hair back and rubbing her shoulders while Sarah retched. I can't believe this, Sarah gasped between waves of nausea. He got her pregnant. While we were planning our wedding, he got another woman pregnant. We're calling Lisa right now, Maria said grimly. And then we're calling the police. He stole $15,000 from you. That's theft. Sarah's phone buzzed with another text from Jennifer. I'm guessing David told you about the baby. That's why I want to meet. There are things about this situation that aren't what they seem. Sarah showed the message to Maria. What do you think she means? I don't know, but I think you should find out, Maria said. If she has information that could help you in the divorce proceedings, you need to hear it. Sarah considered her options. She could ignore Jennifer, focus on the legal proceedings, and try to move on with her life. Or she could meet with the woman who had helped destroy her marriage and see what she had to say. If I meet with her, will you come with me? Sarah asked Maria. Of course. I wouldn't let you go alone, Sarah texted Jennifer back. Fine, coffee shop on Main Street at 8 p.m. I'm bringing my sister. That's fine. Thank you for giving me a chance to explain. As Sarah and Maria prepared to leave for the coffee shop, Sarah caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. Yesterday morning, she had looked at herself in this same mirror while getting ready for her wedding, feeling beautiful and excited, and ready for her new life to begin. Tonight, she looked like a different person entirely. Her face was pale and drawn, her eyes were red from crying, and she was wearing old jeans and a sweater instead of a wedding dress. But there was something else different about her appearance. A hardness around her eyes, a set to her jaw that hadn't been there before. You look strong, Maria observed, following Sarah's gaze to the mirror. I feel different, Sarah admitted. Like I'm finally seeing clearly for the first time in months. Good, Maria said, because something tells me tonight is going to change everything again. As they drove to meet Jennifer, Sarah wondered what other revelations were waiting for her. In less than 24 hours, her entire life had been turned upside down. Her marriage was over. Her husband had stolen money from her to support his pregnant mistress, and now that mistress wanted to meet with her to discuss things that aren't what they seem. Sarah had thought the worst was behind her after David's confession last night. Now she realized that might have been just the beginning. But for the first time since this nightmare started, she felt ready to face whatever was coming next. She was done being the victim in other people's plans for her life. It was time to take control of her own story.